Every Xenoblade game gives you a lot of party members to get attached to. However, sometimes some spoiler related things happen and now your favorite character is either dead or they just don't like you anymore and they leave your party. There are many characters in this series that only join you for a limited time. Some of them are never even playable and I find it really interesting to analyze these guys. In what ways are they different from your other allies? How many corners were cut when making them? And why did the devs even make them join you if they're just gonna leave afterwards? This video will look at every temporary teammate in the series, to appreciate how much effort was put into characters that, in some cases, only fight with you for one battle.
So you require my assistance? Let us begin.
Alvis helps you with defeating Cent-Omnia after he teaches Shulk how to use Monado Purge. Before we even start the fight, we can already discover some weird things about Alvis in the menus. First of all, it's impossible to play as him. The game does not allow you to put him in the first slot of your party. You can take a look at his equipment however, and I want to focus on his weapon. It looks similar to Shulk's junk sword from the beginning of the game. However, Alvis's claymore has an unbeatable 6 gem equipped. As the name implies, this gem makes it impossible for Alvis to lose all of his HP. Sadly, this is all we can find out about him before the battle begins. If we go to the arts menu for example, we just can't see any of Alvis's arts. So, how does he work in battle? Does he have any arts at all, and if so, what do they do? Well, by using a chain attack, we can find out that he has these two arts.
Over to you! Understood. No escape! Cross ray! Lost ray! Wheel-up!
Yeah, both of his attacks are physical. Not only is this uncreative, but this also just makes the fight harder. Atalefia's whole gimmick is that they can force physical attacks to miss. So if you don't have Purge ready before Soul Reed gets used, you'll both keep missing all of your attacks. But to make it worse, Alvis also struggles with drawing the aggro, which is especially bad because Shulk is not meant to take many hits. You know what could have fixed both problems? Giving Alvis an Ether attack, since those can ignore Soul Reed. This is the one battle Alvis participates in and he's not even well equipped for it. There was still a lot of care put into him. He has unique animations and 2 minutes worth of battle voice lines. It almost feels like a waste, since he's only with you for such a short time. Out of all characters I will talk about in this video, Alvis is used the least. A crying shame if you ask me.
Yeah, bring it on!
Momcar was a soldier that fought alongside Dunban in the very first battle of the game. Obviously, there's no way to play as him in this tutorial. We can't even open the menu during it and we can't use chain attacks at this point either. So at first, it seems like there is no way to look at his equipment or arts. There is a way to work around this of course. After I let my characters get hit for 5 minutes, it turns out that Momcar, Dixon and even Dunban can never be defeated in the tutorial, so they all likely have unbeatable 6 gems equipped. There is also a way to look at Momcar's arts. On a normal playthrough, chain attacks are locked until you're a few hours into the game, but on a New Game Plus file you can use them from the start, and from there we can see that Momcar also has 2 arts. Momcar is honestly pretty useless in this battle. Dunban can easily solo all of these enemies, but the fact that his friends from the cutscene join you is still nice for the immersion. But of course, there's one more non-playable party member that joins you here.
Time to show them what Homs can really do!
Dixon joins you 2 different times throughout the game. Like Momcar, he joins you for the tutorial battle, and Dixon also helps Dunban make his unforgettable entrance during the unfinished battle outside of the Ether Mines. Once again, Dixon has an unbeatable 6, but also a topple resist 6 gem, and it's impossible to make him the party leader, so you cannot play as him. By using a chain attack, we can see that he has 2 arts. The first is called Thunder Flash, despite Dixon saying,
Eat this, Thunderbolt!
And he also has a heal art for which he says,
Hold it! Heal bolt!
Thanks.
all things considered, Dixon is also a pretty terrible party member. He will definitely be higher level than the player at this point, but the damage of Dixon's Thunderbolt is genuinely awful, and if you want a healer, you're better off with Sharla. Still, the fact that he joins you to begin with just helps to make this unfinished battle that much more memorable. If anything, I wish that the last 3 characters were reused in some challenge battles this game had, especially since they all have so much care put into them that so many people will never see. Anyways, we're getting into real spoiler territory for Xenoblade 1 now, because there's one more character from this game left to talk about.
Leave this fight to me.
Fiora joins you for the first 2 chapters, then dies, and later comes back with a new robot body. For this video, I'm of course only talking about her Homs version. And it might seem weird to make this distinction between the 2 Fioras, but believe it or not, in some ways the game treats Homs Fiora and Mecha Fiora as different party members. For example, if you start New Game Plus, all of your characters are supposed to stay at the highest level you ever reached with them. I got everyone, including Mecha Fiora, up to level 99. But when I transferred them to New Game Plus, Homs Fiora is still at level 10, because this is the highest level I ever reached with this form of Fiora before she died. There are some more differences, like them technically having different weapons and Homs Fiora only having 4 arts, none of which can be learned by her Mecha form. It's a nice touch that we can play as Fiora in the beginning, it makes her death a way bigger surprise. When you're designing a temporary party member though, you have to be careful. You obviously don't want to put too much effort into a character that you can barely use, but too little effort put in can make it obvious that they're not a permanent teammate. Thankfully, there aren't any major death flags within Fiora's gameplay. Yes, she only has 4 arts, but that's normal in the early game. Shulk will also only have 4 until he's at level 10. But speaking of Shulk, he and Fiora do have a really similar moveset this early on. In fact, you can argue that Fiora is a stronger version of him at this point in the game. In addition to Break, she can also inflict Daze, while no one else can at this point. And her talent art, Butterfly Step, is ridiculously powerful for an early game attack. Fiora serves her purpose well in the opening hours. There were definitely some cut corners with her, but for the average player there won't seem too much out of the ordinary, and she can definitely pull her weight while you have her. Anyway, that's all for Xenoblade 1. I like to cover the games in release order, so next up is Xenoblade X. Every party member in this game can be played as, but spoiler alert, only one of them is available for a limited time.
Buckle up, cause we're doing this. I don't care if it takes every last bullet.
Lao is one of the only story-relevant party members in X. He joins you in Chapter 4 and is no longer playable from Chapter 9 onwards. But unlike every other character in this video, there are 0 cut corners with him. Lao really is a fully fledged party member. He has the same amount of arts and skills as every other character. This is probably because the arts in X are determined by the weapon you're using, and most attack animations are copy-pasted between the characters. Lao has the same long-ranged arts as every rifle user and the same physical arts as every javelin user. This still means that he's a complete party member though, so now it will surely be a big shock when he betrays you. Or it would be if the story didn't make it painfully obvious that something is wrong with him. It's still a shame that he becomes unplayable though. From all Xenoblade X characters, Lao is many people's favorite, including mine. If this game ever gets a remake, I'm praying that you can somehow get him back in the post-game or by other means. Alright, great to talk about Xenoblade X again, but now it's Xenoblade 2's turn.
More corpses to be! I'll end every last one!
Jin actually joins you during various different points in Xenoblade 2. First is Chapter 1, where he joins you alongside Nia and Malos. When these guys join you, you get a tutorial that says, experiment with these characters and find who fits your playstyle the best. This tutorial is terrible, because it's impossible to switch what character you're controlling at this point. You're forced to keep playing as Rex until Jin and Malos turn against you. Great tutorials! Anyway, Jin tries to kill you and he leaves your party up until chapter 8. But in the land of Morifa, he forms a temporary truce with you and you can finally play as him. Jin can only use free art during this period, and the one that stands out the most from these three is Heavenly Disrupt. It inflicts topple, then launch, and then smash. This is nice, but Jin also has a lot of limitations. For example, you can't go into his character menu to give him pouch items or to look at his arts. You also can't use any blade specials with him, despite him being a blade or flesh eater. And finally, if you're playing as Jin, you cannot start a chain attack, and if Rex uses one, Jin's turn will just be skipped. It does make sense because he wouldn't have any blades to attack with anyways. All of this can make Jin surprisingly boring to play with, especially when you consider that all of his arts take forever to charge. He also just doesn't stick around for long. After you get reunited with your friends, Jin immediately leaves your party. It's a shame because he actually has unused voice lines to talk with the rest of your party in battle, and there's some great stuff in here. This is what Jin would have said to Zeke after reviving him.
Get up! People are tripping over you!
I'm up, thanks for nothing.
And while I'm at it, this is what Jin says when he falls down a pit.
Very funny.
These lines alone make me wish that Jin stuck around for longer, but I really can't complain. On top of chapter 1 and chapter 8, Jin also has his own challenge mode battle, where he takes out an entire battleship of soldiers all on his own. And on top of that, he's of course also playable in the Torna DLC. He's not as limited as the other limited time party members, is he? On the other side of the coin, we have our next character.
Don't hold me back! It'll be over in an instant!
Malos and his blade Sever join you alongside Jin in chapter 1. Just like Jin, he is not playable for this part of the game. But unlike Jin, he never joins you again. This makes Malos the only party member in Xenoblade 2 that is never playable. Okay, this is an actual crime. Mikhail, Akos and even Patroka became DLC blades, but not Malos, one of the most important characters in this story. The worst part is that Malos has everything required to be a fully functioning playable character. He's even more of a complete party member than Jin. He starts out with 3 arts and even learns a 4th one by leveling up that you can never equip. All of those arts and his blade specials with Sever are repurposed in his boss fights of course, but still. Malos even has a level 4 special with his blades that you can only see in his boss fights or by hacking the game to play as him. Sadly, there's not much else to say about Malos, other than I really hope he becomes playable in a future spin-off or even a future mainline game somehow.
Come at me! Only one Van Damme! You're looking at him!
Van Damme joins you in chapter 3 and dies at the end of that chapter. Unlike Jin and Malos though, he can be played as. Van Damme has everything that your other party members have. 1 complete affinity chart, a second one in New Game Plus for masochists, access to pouch items and 4 arts. The only big giveaway that he might die is the fact that you cannot awaken more blades on him. The fact that he was a part of your team should make it hurt even more when he eventually dies. But unfortunately, Van Damme is a character that often gets benched on many people's first playthrough. He fills the attacker role just like Rex, so you either have to bench the main character for him, or you have to play without a healer or a tank, assuming you didn't change Rex's or Nia's playstyle of course. It's a shame that it's so hard to fit Van Damme into your team, because he can be a great asset at this point in the game. For many people, he will be the first character with a launch art, which will open up many possibilities to deal even more damage. On top of that, he also has an evasion art which can come in really clutch. I really recommend both new players and veterans replaying the game to give him a chance when you still have him. You can do some great things with him. Anyway, now we're done with the Xenoblade 2 characters, so next up is Xenoblade 3. Heavy Brock can be one of your potential allies in a skirmish battle. Okay, let's talk about this. You can say that the third Xenoblade has the most temporary party members, since you can join monsters or soldiers in skirmishes. And yes, the group that you side with do count as your allies for that battle, but they clearly don't work like party members. These are all regular enemies that are just programmed not to hit you. They don't get any portraits on the left like your actual party members, they don't participate in chain attacks, and they don't show up in any of the menus. I just wanted to clear that up. Now let's actually talk about party members again.
Let's smash this mission! For the castle!
Mwamba is a sharpshooter from Colony 9. He's your ally for most of chapter 1 before he meets his untimely demise at the end of said chapter. By the third mainline game, it just seems like a tradition to kill off a party member at the start of your adventure. But let's be honest here, no one was surprised when Mwamba died. He didn't appear in any of the trailers, there are too many cutscenes where he just doesn't say anything, and he's the only one of Noah's friends to not have a unique combat role. It might seem redundant to have a second attacker, but he does provide your team with some extra firepower, which can make the difference in some early game fights. Mwamba has the unique sharpshooter class that you never get to use yourself. You're forced to keep using Noah in the beginning and no one else ever learns this class. It's mostly unique too. Some of Mwamba's animations are shared with Valdi's War Medic class, but the actual arts and skills from the sharpshooter aren't shared with anyone else in the game. The arts are also very situational, however. One attack only does more damage against Agnes characters specifically, and another is only strong against machines. This is handy in the tutorial battle, and then never again. No, seriously, there are 0 Agnes or machine enemies to find for the entire time Mwamba is with you. But the very moment you split up from him, you have to fight a whole bunch of Agnes soldiers and machines. Mwamba really has it rough, doesn't he? He leaves the very moment he would get to shine the most, and he doesn't even get to be a hero character. I guess he just wasn't as important as every other character that was brought back to life. Once again, a crying shame. I haven't mentioned Future Connected or Torna in this video, because they don't have any temporary allies, and I was about to skip over Future Redeemed as well. However, there are some weird cases in this game that don't entirely fit my criteria for a party member, but that I still wanted to mention. First is Panacea. You fight against her as Glimmer in the beginning, but then she also joins you for one side quest. For this quest battle, the devs probably just took her enemy AI and then made her target the enemy instead of you, like with skirmish enemies. And in case you're wondering, no, Linka never fights with or against you in this entire game. And if we now skip ahead to the final boss of Future Redeemed, I'm taking a really long time to say this sentence so people that want to avoid spoilers can stop watching the video. Consul N also joins you, but just like with skirmishes, he acts the exact same as in his boss fights, but now he only targets Alpha instead of you. That's why I don't count N as a party member, and the same goes for Panacea too, of course. And the final character of this video does count as a party member, so let's give her the proper introduction.
All is for the sake of stamping out the old world.
Nael is in a really weird position. She fights alongside Matthew in multiple fights throughout the story, most of them being flashbacks, but during those fights you cannot switch to her. However, near the end of the game you do get to control her while she fights N during a flashback, and she's a fully functioning character at that point. After that, she joins you again in the final battle, and after beating the game, you can permanently keep her on your team. But you can't play as her during the final boss or the post-game. This just feels stupid. If you're gonna let us play as her at one point, then at least make her playable in the post-game too. At the very least, she still joins you as a hero character, and that's why I was originally not going to talk about her. However, she's just in such a weird position before the final battle that I had to mention her in this video. The Nael situation is definitely not ideal, but she's still in a way better position than half of the temporary party members I just covered. If there is anything to learn from this video, then it's definitely the fact that we need a Xenoblade Warriors game to happen so we can finally play as all of these characters. That's it, thanks for watching.